Thank you for joining me. We're doing more Serger stuff today. So if you were here yesterday, I talked a little bit about like getting started with serging and using a 4-thread basic serge. Today I've switched sergers because why only show you one machine when I have like 5 different sergers in the store? So I'm going to talk a little bit about knits today and why a serger and knits are going to be a really happy combination for you. So again, yesterday I went through threading for a 4-thread serge. So I'm going to drop down to a 3-thread serge today and show you guys another type of serger stitch. We'll talk about some of the other things you can do besides a 4-thread serge, which is what most people recognize. So 4-thread serge. This is Burnett B44. It's the junior of the 2 Burnett's that serge. Its big brother, the B48, is a dual purpose machine, so it can do cover stitch and serging. Cover stitch is a completely different machine usually, but there is some dual purpose machines, and the B48 is one of those, so it can do multiple kinds of stitching that this one can't. It's easier to show you guys what I'm talking about on this one though. So this is why I grabbed this one. So same thing as yesterday, I'm going to switch out to colored threads, and I'll walk you through threading this little one because it's not quite the same as the other one. It's really close, but just not quite the same. I'm just going to take all the white thread off this machine. Start fresh. So the B48, we're going to start the same way, but I'm going to thread today for a 3-thread serge and then show you a couple of the different 3-thread stitches you can do. So when you want to drop down to a 3-thread serge, you have a couple options. In here, there's 2 screws holding the needles in on this machine. You can drop either one to do a 3-thread stitch. You can either do a 3-thread wide or a 3-thread narrow. So if you take out the left needle, you'll have a 3-thread narrow stitch. And if you take out the other one, the right needle, you'll have a wide stitch, just because of where the stitch is happening off to the right of the needles. So I'm going to take off the left needle, which is the screw A on this one, and just loosen the screw and take the needle out. I like to tighten that screw back up because these are very, very tiny little set screws. You will be very sad if it falls in your carpet. Very, very sad. Same thing as yesterday. I've taken out the left needle, so we're not going to worry about our yellow thread for now. And the threads are all in a different order than yesterday, so that's going to be fun. But we're still going to start with the upper looper thread first, and that's the rule with sergers. I don't know if you guys can see down in this corner, there is a threading diagram. The blue one is first. That is the upper looper. And that's fun. And I don't have red thread, but I do have pink. So pink it is. Pink and red are kind of close. So I'm going to start with that upper looper thread, and we're going to thread for a 3-thread serge with a narrow seam. So there's little thread guides here that I can't see how to work with my looking through the camera. Oh, there we go. Pulls in from the side. And then making sure your presser foot is up as you get started so that your tension discs are open. This one is really visibly open when it's open. Should fall in there nicely. And then we're sliding down the front of the machine. Our first thread guide is there. And then there's little dots on our thread guides in here. So right now we're threading for the blue thread. We're through 2 thread guides here, 1 and 2. And then up to the wire guide here. And then we're through the eye of this upper looper. I'm gonna move that back that way. So upper looper threaded first. Upper looper is the one that goes up and over your stitch plate. Pretty straightforward and easy to find. Okay, let's thread that red one and see if we can make magic happen. So again, the top one from the aerial, and then it slides under the little thread guide at the top. We're coming down the front of the machine. And then we're through the two spots with red. One, two. Our next thread guide is here. So your next thread guide, you'll want to pull up into this thread guide here. And the next little spot's a little tricky to see, because the way this is worded is a little bit weird in the manual, and the pictures don't do it justice. But you actually just need to slide the thread in behind this block here. Once we're behind this thread guide here, its job right now is to actually just put the thread back where it goes on the other side. So using the little handle down here, it'll take the thread and hook it in where it needs to go. And then we can go through the eye of the looper. Success! Oh, my thread guide thing didn't work. Okay, there we go. It fell off. Why did you fall off again? That's not what you're supposed to do. Through there. Okay. So now the thread should be going up from this guide over to the magical guide under the plate that you can't see, and then through the eye of the looper and back under the foot. So the looper part of the machine is threaded. And then we can go and thread the single needle that we have in the machine. Getting through the thread guide here, under the little button, down through the tension unit. And when you get over here, you get to find the thread guide that is the right color. So we need the green thread guides. So the green ones are on the right-hand side. When you get to the needle, we're in that thread guide, through the thread guide wire at the front of the machine, above the needle, and then we get to go through the eye of this needle. And just like yesterday, when you start serging, you'll need to make sure your door is closed, because most sergers are happier to do that with their door closed. And you can lower the presser foot. The burnette's a little bit wonky. The presser foot lift works backwards to every other machine. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, but you do have to push it down to raise it and lift it up to lower it. Okay, I've got a happy little chain started there, coming off the back of the machine. Lovely. So I'm going to put a piece of knit fabric in there, or two. Let's do two. So say you were making pajama pants out of this fun stuff, or a t-shirt. You can do this with a 3-thread serge. You can do it with a 4-thread serge. We're going to put the stitch finger back in, because I had that pulled out of the way for getting started. I can't sew a straight line with the camera in the way. But that's okay. But there we have a 3-thread serge that unfortunately I have not driven very straight for. So what I can't see here is that there's big giant loopies hanging off the end, off the edge of the fabric. I can tighten up my tensions, but I think it's actually a driving problem. So my cutting width on this one. Let me go a little wider on my cutting width. A little wider than cutting width helps, but still not quite enough tension for those stitches to land right at the edge nicely there. Only adjust your tensions one at a time, and right now it's the looper threads that are not quite landing right. So I'm going to just increase my looper tensions slightly. Like half a number sometimes is enough. Then you have this great thread cutter where your knife is. Oh, that's much better. So now we've got a much happier little knit stitch with a 3-thread serge. And the looper threads are meeting at the edge of the fabric, which is lovely. And this is actually laying really flat. Sometimes sergers get some rippling things going on. So if your serger is rippling the fabric as it serges, there's a function on your serger called differential feed. And this one is so differential goes from kind of a 0.7 up to a 2 on the knob. Right now it's at the default of 1. So what that means is that the front and back feed dogs are moving at the same ratio to each other. If your knit was rippling and wavy at the end, you would need to increase your differential maybe up to 2. So this knit behaved really nicely, which is always great. But easy adjustment, and then you change the timing ratio of your front and back feed dogs, and then magical things happen. So I'm going to put that back where it was, and let's I feel like doing a blind hem today. So we're just going to switch out the foot. So this one is the same as the brother one, where you drop the presser foot off and then take that off. So blind hem foot, you can get on its own. There is a foot set for the sergers from Bernat as well. But the blind hem foot is a funky little thing. So if you have t-shirts that you need to make shorter, because maybe you're not a super tall person, you can use your blind hem foot for it. So what we're looking at on the blind hem foot is we've got this big metal blade out front, and it's going to act as our guide for where the fold in our blind hem happens. And then there's markings for where your needles will land in reference to the needle will land in this hole here. We get to line up that fold using those markings there. And this is adjustable left to right, depending on the fabric you're using. You might need to move it. So I will leave it at kind of its default setting as we get started, and figure out how to wiggle this on there. Right, clips the other direction. There we go. You might have to push the button on the back of the foot again. So blind hems are really super weird. So our good side of our fabric, we're gonna fold upward into that nice pant leg hem or t-shirt hem. And then what happens next is the magic fold that makes your blind hem work. So we're going to flip, we're looking at the inside of your pants right now, or your inside of your t-shirt. We're going to flip it back open. So you're looking at all inside edges. And what we're going to aim for here is to have this loose bit that you've folded up, cut and trimmed and finished cleanly. And then a tiny little blind hem stitch into this fold that will show on the front of your fabric. Blind hem stitch is technically a flat lock stitch. So it's actually a tension game because it's not a regular 3-thread serge at this point. We are going to loosen your needle tension and grab the binder, because now that it's taken 3 times to thread the machine, you've forgotten which tensions should be where. But there's a binder. So lower looper, the tension is 7. Upper looper, I'm leaving it at the default that was working happily with this fabric. And our needle thread, we're going to loosen. So, like I said, this is a folding game. If you don't fold it right, the blind hem doesn't work. So good side of the fabric is the colored side. And then what we're aiming for here is we're going to trim off a little bit to get a nice clean edge on the inside edge of our fabric. And then the fold that we've made, where we want the needle to land just inside that, is going to go on the left-hand side of this blade. And this was already threaded and serging. So we should be able to just kind of shimmy that in there just a little. And then maybe I can see to drive through the camera. And we'll know in a moment if I've snagged where I need to. It takes a little bit of practice to get the placement here. We'll see if I aimed right. So when you pull the stitch off the machine, it looks like a serge stitch with a finished edge. What you can probably see here is that I've caught that fold in some places and not in all of them. So this is a Leah can't drive straight through the camera problem. But then the raw edge is finished. So with a flat lock stitch, which is the basic stitch that a blind hem is on this machine, this isn't your finished product right now. Your finished product happens when you pull this open and flat. So depending how much fabric you get under the needle, you either get tiny little dots like down here, where that needle thread is just a tiny little dot, which makes it a blind hem, or you are not driving very straight and you have too much fabric under the needle and you get what kind of looks like a ladder, which could totally be a decorative effect. And I've seen some places with fancy clothes that t-shirts are expensive. They use flat lock stitches and make the ladder stitch a detail feature. So depending where that fold is landing next to the needle, you'll either get a really, really invisible little blind hem or a not very invisible blind hem, but it's a flat lock stitch either way. So flat lock is one of the 3 basic stitches a serger can do. So we did a 4-thread serge yesterday. Today is a 3-thread and then a flat lock. And tomorrow we're going to do some rolled hems because rolled hems are so much fun. But yeah, nice and easy. Great way to shorten t-shirts if you're in the need to shorten your clothes business. So nice way to finish and not a scary stitch to do as long as you understand what's trying to happen. So thank you for joining me again today. We're going to do more serging tomorrow because serging is lots of fun. So thank you guys for joining me. Be safe, be kind, be calm, and take it easy out there. It looks like it's getting dark already. I don't know how that happened.